A team built to chase a championship, a once-in-a-generation superstar, and a season filled with sky-high expectations somehow became overshadowed by non-stop controversy. Caitlin Clark entered the 2026 campaign believing she would lead the Indiana Fever back into title contention after an unforgettable rookie year. Instead of headlines celebrating victories, the spotlight quickly shifted toward tense moments on the sidelines, uncomfortable exchanges with the coaching staff, and decisions that left fans wondering what was really happening behind closed doors. A series of incidents involving Clark and the coaches continued to surface, causing many observers to question whether the relationship between the franchise's biggest star and the coaching staff was beginning to crack. The conversation only grew louder after a controversial rest day decision, reports of communication issues, and national analysts openly questioning whether Clark could fully trust the people guiding the organization. What was supposed to be a season focused on winning suddenly became dominated by speculation. The year began under enormous pressure. Caitlin Clark wasn't simply returning to play basketball, she was carrying the expectations of an entire franchise. After an injury-shortened season, Indiana had reshaped its roster around her talents with one clear objective: compete for a championship immediately. Patience was no longer part of the conversation. Only a few games into the season, the Fever found themselves sitting at an even record. Yet the team's performance was no longer the biggest story. Instead, attention shifted toward visible tension on the bench, emotional reactions during games, and viral camera angles that sparked endless debates across social media. One of the earliest talking points came when Clark appeared to have an animated discussion with assistant coach Brianne January. Considering January's outstanding defensive reputation and years of success as one of the league's premier defenders, many expected the incident to be dismissed as nothing more than a passionate basketball conversation. Instead, it raised even more questions. If the coaching staff clearly possessed the experience and credibility, why did these disagreements continue to become public? Some believed the exchange represented nothing unusual. Competitive athletes and demanding coaches often challenge one another in pursuit of excellence. Those conversations happen every day in practice facilities, film sessions, and locker rooms across every professional sport. Others wondered whether the situation reflected a deeper issue involving the integration of one of basketball's brightest young stars into an organization that already had an established culture before her arrival. The debate intensified only days later. Indiana earned an impressive victory over Seattle, and statistically it looked like exactly the type of performance fans had hoped to see. Clark delivered another outstanding all-around game, finishing with 21 points, 10 assists, and 7 rebounds despite playing limited minutes. Under normal circumstances, that performance would have dominated every headline. Instead, social media exploded over a courtside video showing Clark in another heated discussion with an assistant coach before she chose to move to a different seat on the bench. Defensive mistakes had frustrated everyone throughout the game, and many believed the disagreements centered on those breakdowns. Regardless of the exact reason, the visual immediately became the story. Seeing the team's biggest star visibly upset and distancing herself from the coaching staff in front of national cameras fueled even more speculation than the victory itself. To many viewers, the moment looked far bigger than a simple coaching decision. It appeared to send a message, and that perception quickly became the center of debate. During a halftime television discussion, two highly respected analysts viewed the same sequence in completely different ways. One defended Stephanie White's actions, arguing that every player, regardless of status, must be held accountable. The other questioned whether publicly handling the franchise's biggest star in that manner was the smartest approach. The contrast between those opinions was revealing. Experienced analysts watched the exact same footage and reached opposite conclusions, proving there was no obvious right or wrong interpretation. The scene wasn't a clear example of a coach overreacting or a player being mistreated. Instead, it depended largely on the perspective each viewer brought into the conversation. That uncertainty only fueled the modern sports media cycle. Every replay was examined frame by frame, and a brief exchange that lasted only seconds evolved into a larger discussion about the Fever's coaching philosophy. Suddenly, a routine basketball moment was being treated as evidence of something much deeper. One detail that often went unnoticed involved rookie Raven Johnson. She became part of the controversy simply because she replaced Clark during the sequence. Johnson never asked to be thrust into the spotlight, nor did the decision reflect anything about her own performance. Yet nearly every conversation surrounding the substitution focused on what it supposedly meant for Clark, while the rookie herself was almost completely ignored. It's also fair to consider the alternative. Had White remained silent and ignored the defensive mistake, would the criticism really have disappeared? Probably not. Those who believe star players deserve more freedom would have praised that approach, while others would have accused the coaching staff of showing favoritism. In reality, there may never have been a version of that situation capable of avoiding criticism altogether. As the bench discussions slowly began losing momentum, another decision immediately reignited the controversy. Before Indiana's rematch against Portland, the organization announced that Caitlin Clark would not play. The explanation was straightforward. It was part of the team's long-term player management strategy. Normally, that type of announcement would barely attract attention. Professional teams regularly manage workloads, monitor player health, and occasionally schedule rest without creating major headlines. However, this situation unfolded immediately after several highly publicized disagreements involving Clark and the coaching staff, making the timing impossible for many fans to ignore. Speculation spread rapidly. Some supporters questioned whether load management was simply a convenient explanation masking lingering tension inside the organization. Others focused on disappointed fans who had purchased tickets specifically to watch Clark play, only learning of her absence shortly before tip-off. Social media quickly filled with frustration, sarcasm, and criticism from people who believed the league's biggest attraction shouldn't be sitting out so early in such an important season. Stephanie White attempted to quiet the rumors by stating clearly that Clark was healthy and that there was no hidden issue behind the decision. Her response was direct and left little room for interpretation. Even so, once public suspicion begins growing, official explanations rarely spread as quickly as speculation. Perhaps the organization could have communicated the decision earlier and more transparently. At the same time, it's equally possible that fans, already skeptical because of previous incidents, were unwilling to accept the explanation regardless of how it was presented. The truth likely lies somewhere between those two viewpoints. More than anything, the episode highlighted a communication problem. Internally, the franchise may have fully understood its reasoning, but that information never reached the public with enough clarity. In today's sports environment, where every roster decision is instantly analyzed online, poor communication can damage public trust almost as much as the decision itself. This wasn't the first time Indiana's handling of Clark's availability had attracted attention. Earlier in the season, the organization had already received criticism after failing to properly report her status before a game. Combined with ongoing discussions surrounding a lingering back issue, repeated changes to her injury designation, and inconsistent updates, many supporters found themselves increasingly confused. None of those developments necessarily suggested poor medical management. Teams routinely handle back injuries with caution to avoid creating more serious long-term problems. The real issue wasn't necessarily the medical decisions themselves. It was the lack of consistent communication that allowed uncertainty and speculation to grow. Eventually, the story expanded well beyond basketball. National media personalities entered the conversation, and some opinions became far more dramatic than anything fans had previously suggested. One commentator went as far as questioning whether Clark could trust anyone inside the Fever organization, claiming even members of the front office and those closest to her were failing to protect her best interests. The proposed solution was equally dramatic: request a trade immediately. That argument naturally raised another question. Were those claims based on genuine information from inside the organization, or were they simply another example of attention-grabbing sports commentary? Modern sports media often rewards bold predictions and absolute certainty far more than careful analysis. Still, experienced insiders occasionally reveal accurate information before it becomes public, making it difficult to completely dismiss every controversial opinion. As a result, the discussion surrounding Clark continued to grow, with speculation becoming almost as significant as the games themselves. What makes this situation difficult to dismiss isn't a single controversial opinion, but the number of different voices arriving at similar concerns from completely different angles. Respected television analysts debated the bench incident on live broadcasts, veteran commentators questioned whether Clark should consider her future with the organization, and many fans reacted with genuine frustration when she was unexpectedly rested. Those events weren't connected by one manufactured storyline. Instead, they formed several separate conversations that all pointed toward the same larger question: is the organization doing everything possible to support the long-term success of its most valuable player, both competitively and commercially? There is another perspective that deserves equal consideration. Throughout professional sports, coaches are often toughest on their best players. Elite athletes are expected to accept criticism because they have the talent and mental strength to respond without losing confidence. That philosophy explains why many defended the coaching staff's approach. Brianne January's respected defensive background was frequently mentioned as proof that Clark should trust the coaching rather than challenge it. Even so, that explanation doesn't completely answer the concerns many supporters continued raising. Strong coaching and strong communication are not automatically the same thing. A coach can demand excellence while still leaving players or fans uncertain about the reasons behind important decisions. When communication becomes inconsistent, even ordinary coaching moments can create unnecessary doubt. It's also important to remember why these discussions became so significant in the first place. Caitlin Clark's influence extends far beyond the Indiana Fever. Television ratings increase when she plays, arenas attract larger crowds, merchandise sales continue climbing, and the league itself benefits from the attention surrounding her career. Because of that reality, every decision involving her receives a level of scrutiny that very few athletes have ever experienced. Questions about her coaching, health, and overall treatment are no longer viewed as issues affecting only one franchise. They are often discussed as matters influencing the direction and public image of the entire league. That explains why debates surrounding Clark rarely remain calm for very long. If these same situations involved an average player, they might receive little attention outside the local market. With Clark, every decision becomes national news. Standing playmaking performances, climbing franchise record books move up the standings. The losses and struggles that once seemed alarming gradually look. Teams' improvement erase every concern from earlier in the season? Not necessarily. Winning often reduces outside criticism, but it doesn't automatically resolve every teams where coaches and star players occasionally disagree while continuing to compete at the highest level. Success can mask tension without eliminating it entirely. The biggest question moving forward isn't whether another emotional sideline exchange will eventually happen. Those moments occur throughout every season in every league. The more meaningful issue is whether the organization has improved the communication problems that accurately reflect what's happening inside the organization. So, has the Indiana Fever coaching staff failed Caitlin Clark, or are they simply coaching her with the same demanding standards applied to every rather than undeniable fact? What can be stated with confidence is that the early season tension was real. Multiple incidents involving different members of the coaching staff created legitimate questions. Likewise, the same organization criticized for confusing communication has now guided the team through one of its strongest stretches of the season. Both realities can exist: consistency and effective communication. At this stage, the story remains unfinished. Indiana has responded with victories, Clark continues breaking records, and optimism has returned around the franchise. Yet the biggest unanswered question isn't whether another clip will go viral. It's whether the trust between the organization, its franchise superstar, and one of the league's most passionate fan bases continues to grow before the next major challenge arrives.